Don't like grass
Like
very much.
layman could get no respect.
I know.
All right, we're back on record. We are recording. Go ahead and introduce yourself for the
Dave.
record, and go ahead and then tell us what your expectations are.
Yes, sir. Dave Martinez, Public Defender. I'll start off by saying I know that I'll just tell you what I think we need to do, but I admire the commission, and I think you're in an impossible task this time every year. I don't think a lot of the community knows how difficult it is to balance everything that you need to balance and to make sure that everything that the people of this community expect receive. I think it's a difficult balancing act, and I appreciate your efforts. I have written in some suggestions on salaries. I continue to lose people. I'm going to lose someone again now. Have people starting off with very little experience, making more than I do, much less more than their counterparts in my office. I have suggested salaries, but I know that the commission has an overall plan, and you're doing the best you can. I have been concerned for some time about the assistants as costs continue to go up, and they go up for everybody, and I understand that, and we have some wonderful benefits that make the employees' lives easier, but everything is just becoming more oppressive, and our housing market is out of control. And for people that don't have a mortgage right now, their rent's just ungodly. And I know you all know probably that Boise for the second year was crowned the most overrated real estate market, and I'm not sure we're all that far behind right now. We are.
We're in the top 10 in the nation.
Yeah.
News. So.
Yeah, and it's difficult, and I know that you have a lot of balancing to do, but I am concerned about the salaries of my folks. I also asked for a few new positions. I will tell you that I know that only so much is possible, and that may not be possible. I get that. If I had a choice right now between adding just attorneys or adding some combination of an attorney and a social worker, I think I would add a social worker and one attorney before I would ask for a second attorney. And I'll tell you the reason that I think that is. I've been doing a lot of research, and I have some very definite plans on how I think we can cut down on recidivism. And I think one of the things we need to do is to start doing warm handoffs with a social worker from people in jail, and having them lined up with services before they're released. That they have a social worker who's on board who can make sure that they have all those appointments, make sure they have the connections they need, make sure that they have appointments with my office and any place else they need to go, because I want to make sure that we can keep some of these folks out of jail. We're in live court again now, so we need people out of the jail. If we're going to get them out of the jail, we need a way to make sure that the community's protected and the right things are happening. I think we can be part of that solution. I've told people before that in days past it was okay for an attorney to just take care of your criminal case and then say goodbye. If we're not doing something now to help them stay out of the system in the long run, I don't feel like we've done our complete job. I've done some extensive research on what a social worker would do in the office. I've reached out to ISU to try and get another intern. My idea is that I could have that intern doing some of the biopsychosocials and things that are less complicated, while I had an employee actually developing the program so that we could interact with the jail, maybe run some groups out there that wouldn't be on additional cost to the jail, would be a value to the entire community while increasing the effectiveness of our representation and giving the judges some more options beyond incarceration. So I realize that there's a short-term investment in the office to add that position, but my hope is to demonstrate some savings on that in the long run. I'm also meeting this week with the chair of the criminology department to figure out how we can start tracking some of those things so that I could demonstrate to the commission in the future where we're being successful and where we need to do additional work. So I've put a lot of effort into this. As you know, I've been asking for several years for a social worker, and I ask both you and the state, and I understand all of the difficulties of adding positions to any particular department. I get it. I'm not sure that I've done a terribly good job of explaining to you how that would work. So I think I'd invite your questions, but I think right now, in addition to keeping us up to full staff, because I am going to lose an attorney here within the next few weeks, and a felony attorney, unfortunately. So I've got to figure out a way to maintain that staff, but then to also make us more effective with what we have. And I think this is one of the paths to doing that.
On your salaries, did you just pick a number or did you change grades?
I changed grades
Okay.
for everyone but me, because I'm not on there anyway.
And Scott?
Well, yeah. Scott would be, that's a 20,
Okay.
somewhere around a 20.
Okay. So if we wanted to look and see what she did, I could get grade?
Yes,
grades
ma'am.
for her. Okay.
Yeah, I think I moved everyone one grade,
Okay.
except not the secretaries, obviously, just the attorneys. But the secretaries, I don't know how much is possible. The assistants, I don't know how much is possible. So that was just a suggestion on one of the ways that we could lighten the load for them a little bit. And I know that doing a retention like that would not be an ongoing cost. We'd have to look at that year to year.
So it'd be a retention stipend?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm trying to make sure I keep them as well, because when you've got new attorneys, the most valuable thing in the world is an assistant who knows what she's doing. Because, you know, Scott and I are doing a lot of the training of attorneys, but so is the assistant. And making sure that, because I can't be there for every second to warn them about every single pitfall. So a valuable assistant is worth his or her weight in gold. But you already know that because you've got the staff you have, so.
Why'd your cell phone stipend go from 6,700 to 11,000?
I'm not sure. Unless that's the whole amount for everybody.
Did you just add for all the
I
attorneys?
don't know. I might have made a mistake. I'm not positive.
Okay.
I'll have to look at that and figure it out.
Okay, we can look at that. Because right now, only your attorneys and Janelle have cell phone stipends.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because your cellular telephone only went from 2,000 to 3,000. So the stipend, that's a big.
Yeah. And the actual office phones, those were just on Wi-Fi's. For the actual cell phones, everyone else just gets a stipend, but even the assistants are using phones constantly.
Does your investigator get a stipend?
I don't think so.
Okay. I was just trying to think of anybody and everybody. that
Yeah, I'll
would think
check,
was
but
different.
everybody is using their cell phones constantly. I mean, even the assistants are texting attorneys, and this person's in your office, this judge is waiting. It's pretty much constant. My phone has buzzed 3 times since we've been here.
And then on the conflict attorneys, is that what we've historically been spending? That 372, is that?
Well, that's what we spent this year. That's what was budgeted.
I
Right,
didn't
Yeah.
I didn't touch that number because that's
Okay.
not
That's-
something I've ever been involved in, so.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that changes with adding Rocky or if we've got, someone else in the pipeline. I don't know how
That's kind of what I was alluding to, where we do the internal office. Does that change that number?
Well, we'll probably move this over to, if you go to the next section, after Dave's budget, we've got because that has been established, so we'll work that out when we do the clerk's recommendation. But we've got the non-medical court-ordered public defender.
Oh, okay, got it.
So
So some of that 370 will transfer over to here?
probably.
Potentially,
Well,
yeah.
probably actually didn't schedule that as part of a meeting, so if we have extra time, after Dave's done presenting his, we can talk about how we would
Okay.
like to see that, because that's not on our schedule.
Yeah.
to talk about, but it needs to be addressed.
And I told Rocky that anything he needs from me, just let me know if he needs process work or anything else. He's been good to work with so far. He's been calling me. Things are going well.
Good.
I think he was a good choice.
Good. That's all I had.
And you've got, so the Westlaw, that includes the new positions?
Yes.
And then 75 is just a swag on murder trials?
Yes, because I've
You never
got,
know.
yeah, I've got 2 right now that are non-capital, so they're going to have costs for us. We have the officer-involved shootings with Brewer. I have a stabbing right now. I've got the aggravated batteries on a police officer. Some of these are going to be, there are likely to be a lot of experts involved in these. That's why I'm concerned, and I hope to not spend all that money,
Better to have it.
but I would rather not have to come back and nickel and dime. So,
Those are good uses of one-time funds that we can throw in there. And this department, since the funding is going to change next year, potentially change next year, will most likely move. I don't know how that's going to look yet.
nor does anybody else.
Hopefully by the time we get
She
the
doesn't
clerk's,
know, no one knows.
hopefully by the time we do the clerk's recommendation, we'll know.
Well, I think that like the certification, and they have to start the process on July 1st, right?
We're supposed to get our first disbursement, yeah.
Yeah, and did you get a letter from the PDC about certifying their expenditures? They've hired somebody to go through expenditures to certify them because that's part of the process for the new budget.
Maybe.
I'm probably going to get an email here in a minute, as
Okay.
soon as somebody forwards it to me.
Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. We live in interesting times.
Oh, they'll change their minds 4 times before they
Okay,
decide what
so-
they're gonna do.
I doubt you not.
Okay. Other questions?
So on your capital, that's just if we get new staff, we'll have to add that.
Yes.
That payroll.
Yes.
Okay. Is that just for the attorneys, or would that be social worker? Because there's only.
I have some for that.
Okay,
Part of my plan for next year for some of the grant money is I have figured out a way, well, with Adam's assistance, I've figured out a way to do all of our court documents, the things that need to be filed, figured out a way to do them on tablets without adding additional cost to buy a signature program. So then we will be able to take them to the jail, have them signed, emailed to our assistant, and then just filed without them ever having to turn into paper. So I'm planning on adding a couple of those, and I can recycle some of the computers I have in other places.
Okay.
And when in doubt, I have some state money that I can use because I don't want to
No.
okay.
be a drain where it's, trying to balance these things.
Nope,
Anything
good.
else?
Thank you.
As always, if there's anything I can do for you, let me know.
We will holler.
Yeah, I appreciate your time and your efforts. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Now you got it.
Instead
I have
of
a
going
meeting
to
at 6.
recess,
Tell them what I'm
can
doing
we
today.
talk, can we talk?
Public, or
Yeah.
conflict.
Office of Conflict?
Peace.
I have a meeting with the city of Pocatello here in 20 minutes.
I just got out. Now I gotta
I have to go to
go write some letters and see some.
You're back at 3 pages, right?
I will see you all later.
So
Chair.
you go-
City.
If you go to, the top heading is going to say indigent non-medical
luck.
court order,
I
public defender.
sent a copy of that letter to you.
Yeah, I saw it.
You read it?
I'm good with it.
Within
Yeah,
here,
just send it.
we have 2 attorneys and then staff, so there is a tentative budget in here. Do we want to move the contracts for public defense, or do we want to leave those?
I would.
I think so.
It just puts it all clear.
Okay.
So you want to do the office and the contracts on the same?
In the same
Right
department?
here.
Would you just do the conflicts as just a single line item like you
Yeah.
have in Dave's?
We'll have, yeah, we'll just move that line down. Now, within this budget, we also used to have overages. So there's still 45,000 for that. When we get to the point that we do the clerk's recommendation, this one might be fuzzy and might have to get fine-tuned until we get to your final budget, because we'll probably have to see what we've got for contracts, if we're still having to utilize those others, or if you get another applicant. So this one might have to be fluid until we get to your,
Until we get a real
Very much
system.
so.
Yeah.
But.
And
but
just
yeah,
in time
moving them
to
all,
get rid of it in 2 years.
Which we'd love to do.
Yep.
Sooner the better.
with that said, we're probably not gonna need all 372. We'll probably be able to take that down, because right now, we've only got one contract, right?
To Dave Chanel.
Okay,
To James,
James
sorry.
and
okay,
John.
okay.
Not John.
Oh, yeah, he'll be out.
Warren Weber and James Chanel.
Okay.
Will be our two.
And
Okay.
we still have to account for those that have still been assigned by the courts. I don't know how long they
Well-
will last.
Right?
That's where we've got that 45,000, so that 45,000 is probably gonna have to get upped.
Yeah.
And this contract is probably gonna have to stay the same, so if we've only got the two, then, and if they're only getting $5,000 a month, right?
Warren
No,
gets
they're-
6.
Oh,
They're
5 and
hourly.
6.
They're hourly at 85.
Well, Chanel is,
No, the contracts.
Warren is 6,000 flat still. We haven't changed him.
Okay,
But James
but the-
Chanel is 85.
85, okay.
Okay. Well, Chenault then shouldn't be paid out of this contract.
If he's hourly.
So the contract traditionally, unless we change this, the contract is the flat dollar amount a year, or a month.
But we gotta pay the $85 out of the same funds.
Then, let's just make one
Yeah,
line
yeah.
for conflict attorneys, and then we'll just,
Conflict attorneys as employees and those that are,
no employees are employees.
yeah.
So
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
It's just a line
So
in
we,
the
Oh,
budget.
yeah.
we have our,
Yes, yeah. So we'll
The
have
two.
Weber at the $6,000,
Mhm.
and then everybody else is on an hourly basis.
Just leave it like outside conflict attorneys.
outside, yeah.
Yeah, just as a,
Now, is Warren gonna change though, to comply? We're good with that? Okay.
At least that's what he told me, but he changed his mind, so who knows?
Okay.
He was happy with us Friday, but then yesterday he was complaining down again.
Was he?
Mhm.
Well,
About Judge Murray, not about you guys.
he's been having some partners that have been trying to influence him, and
Yeah.
we don't know what'll happen. That's why I
So-
say the sooner the better.
Yep.
So do we, do you want to keep it at this total amount, or do we want to, in theory, we should be able to reduce it, because we've at least got one
I would
employee.
leave it there to start with, just like you say, this is gonna be a fluid. This is one of them deals that if we don't use it, then, but good for us.
Great. Yeah,
But
I agree.
I hate to try to come up with the funds later, depending on what keeps going on with us.
Well, but the way this looks right now, because you've added 4 positions, you've increased the budget already.
Yes,
So we're going to need to take something down just to balance,
Mhm.
is where I'm trying to.
and that's what we'll have to look at, and
Okay. So we can look
Yeah,
at it
we'll-
through the
we'll-
clerks,
yeah,
and
we'll
then
play with those a
hopefully
little
you
bit
like
and
that.
see.
I just, like I said, I don't want to come up short with an unknown that is out there.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think that'd be one of them good discussions that we'll have after we have some better numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
We have each department saying, I have to have, I have to have.
I know.
This one, we know we have to have.
See, how much is in there now? 372?
Huh?
How much is in there now? 370?
372 is in the contract line,
Okay.
because we haven't moved anything yet. But part of what we were gonna do this fiscal year is move for that budget for the Office of Conflicts. So once we do that, that might also kind of help us know what we should keep in there. But we'll combine that with the 45 and then reduce whatever we need for the salaries.
And that's also,
Braden, on that note, as you've been following that with the past contracts that the judges are making them finish out their cases, how quickly are those are they getting checked off at all, or are they just?
Felony ones are going pretty quick, from what I understand, and misdemeanors and all those, but the child protection cases are kind of dragging a little bit. But those could drag on for years. So,
and
and that was
honestly,
kind of Warren's heartburn was.
well, as we bring new people in, I mean, I'm not saying that we're giving Dave any people, but they shouldn't have conflicts. I mean, if you bring new employees in, so that should lighten burdens. I'm just
Yeah.
looking at the whole picture. I'm not saying we're giving
Picture,
him
yeah.
people, but, and then the other thing we have to look at is if you look at the wages that he's asking for his people, how do our conflicts that are employees stack up
Mhm.
in the wage field?
Yeah.
Just trying to think of the whole picture.
Yeah.
Not very pretty.
No, that's why I was kind of hoping to reduce a little. Okay.
Overlay those.
All right.
What time is he supposed to